How many hours of your life have you spent replaying someone in your mind, creating conversations that never happened, reliving moments that are long over, or imagining scenarios that will never exist? Doing this is like chaining yourself to a ghost by your own choice. It drains your energy, dulls your focus, and robs you of the joy of the present moment. Today, I bring you a challenge to stop being a prisoner of that person in your mind and reclaim your power. You cannot control what others do, say, or think, but you can choose what you allow into your mind. This video is not for remaining passive. It's for those ready to take action. In just a few minutes, you will see step by step how to let go emotionally, free yourself, and call back the inner peace you thought you had lost. Before we begin, I ask you for one small but powerful step. Write this sentence in the comments with full determination. Today, I control my mind. Let it be more than a comment. Let it be a promise to yourself. Repeat it, engrave it into your subconscious, and every time you see it, remind yourself. You are the master of your mind, not its prisoner. Now let's go deeper. We will explore how mental obsession works, which false beliefs feed it, and how you can extinguish it step by step. If you are ready, let us build together that inner sanctuary, the strength of wisdom. Lesson 1. See overthinking as a mental chain. When you keep circling around someone in your thoughts, it isn't really the person that holds you. It's the hook of your own mind. That hook often comes from the need for control. Waiting for a message that won't come, forcing answers that were never given, trying to predict a future that isn't here yet. The mind keeps echoing its own story until it mistakes it for reality. And that is where pain begins, because you confuse what you imagine with what actually happens. Overthinking is usually fueled by unmet expectations. If they don't reply, they don't care. If they ignore me, they don't love me. But are these bare facts or emotionally charged interpretations? Most of the time, they are just interpretations. These interpretations turn into chains, making you dependent on approval, response, and attention. The mind, instead of flowing like a river, becomes a whirlpool endlessly circling itself. The first step to freedom is naming it. This is a thought, not reality. The moment you say this, a small but powerful distance opens between your identity and your mind. You are no longer the one lost in the story your mind invented, but the observer watching it from outside. Each time obsessive thoughts arise, repeating this practice gradually weakens their hold. You tell your mind, I hear you, but I won't let you take control. Writing becomes a powerful tool in this process. For example, take a sentence like, if they don't reply, it means they don't care, and put it on paper. Once the weight of emotion is released from your mind onto the page, the sentence stands bare, and you can ask yourself, is this a fact or just a story my mind created? Most often, you will see it is only a narrative. And in that moment of awareness, an inner lightness appears. Another practice is mindful breathing. For just 30 seconds, focus only on your breath. As you do, the image of that person fades. The mind cannot be in two places at once. It is either chasing thoughts or resting in the breath. Returning to the present moment is like anchoring yourself in a safe harbor where the storm of assumptions cannot reach you. Doing this exercise several times a day retrains the mind. At first, it feels difficult because overthinking is a deep habit. But with persistence, the obsessive thoughts lose their fuel. The fire begins to extinguish on its own. What once felt overwhelming becomes a distant whisper. The fruit of this discipline is clarity. The mind stops producing storms and begins to see things as they are. You no longer try to manage what others think. You return your focus to the only domain you can control, yourself. Your energy is no longer held hostage by others. It returns to you. The view of wisdom is clear here. Most of our struggles arise from clinging to what we cannot control. Thoughts are like clouds. You cannot stop them from appearing, but you can choose not to grasp them and turn them into a storm. Realizing that obsession with someone is only a mental chain is the key insight. That's why, when your mind starts spinning the same story, do not fight it. Observe it. Name it. This is just a thought. Then return to the present moment. Practicing this with patience, determination, and compassion for yourself, the obsessive voice grows quieter. What remains is a calmer, lighter space to live in. Because it was never them who bound you, it was your own mind. And the moment you see this, the key to freedom appears in your hand. Let's briefly summarize this part. Freeing yourself from mental obsession doesn't happen through giant leaps, but through small, consistent practices. When thoughts appear, instead of following them, quietly say, "This is a thought, not reality." Then write it down and see from the outside whether it's a fact or just an interpretation. Next, spend 30 seconds focusing on your breath, counting inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2. This simple practice, repeated 3 times a day, creates a healthy distance between you and your mind. That distance is true freedom, and with it comes back your greatest strength, the power to govern yourself. 2. Releasing people from your mind. In our minds, we often give people far greater space than they ever had in reality. Even when someone is gone physically, we may still keep them alive in our inner world. For days, weeks, or even months, we replay their words, their silences, and the gaps they left behind. Without noticing, we make them the main character of our inner stage. Yet in reality, they no longer play an active role at all. This is like carrying unnecessary weight on our back. The burden is not them, but the unfinished stories about them. There is an old teaching that illustrates this. 2 monks were walking along a forest path when they saw a woman at a riverbank. Afraid, she couldn't bring herself to cross. The older monk lifted her in silence, carried her across, and set her down. They continued on their way. The younger monk grew upset because according to their rules, they were forbidden to touch women. After some time, unable to contain himself, he asked, "How could you touch her? Don't you know our teaching forbids it?" The older monk calmly replied, "I left that woman at the riverbank hours ago, but you are still carrying her." Most of us do the same. Our body lets go, but our mind still carries. True freedom begins when we finally learn to release. Even when we remove someone physically from our life, we often continue carrying them in our mind. The real chain is not physical but mental. Letting someone go in your mind doesn't mean erasing them or wishing them ill. It simply means no longer giving them the starring role. When you stop replaying the same scenes and reshaping every detail, the shadow of the past no longer falls over the present. You can begin this process by quietly asking yourself, "Am I still carrying this person in my mind?" That awareness is the first link loosening the chain. Because most of the time, it is not the person that exhausts us, but the story we keep telling ourselves about them. Writing is a powerful way to make this concrete. Questions like, what really hurt me? What situation still remains inside me? When written on paper, abstract feelings become visible. They are no longer inside you, but in front of you. Looking at them, you see more clearly that the chain is not made of matter but of mind. Sometimes simply saying aloud, "I no longer carry this story," can be surprisingly liberating. It closes a door inside and prevents the past from constantly leaking into the present. You cannot control what others will do, think, or understand, but you can decide how much space they take up in your mind. To give them a chair there endlessly is to rent out your inner space to others. Taking that space back is an act of self-respect. When the mind returns to the same story, gently remind yourself, I am here now. I am breathing. Each breath becomes a small but powerful path out of the shadow of the past and back into the present. Over time, as you practice this, you realize that thoughts which once consumed hours now just knock on the door and pass by. Memories that once stung turn into silent echoes. Because the control is with you, other people's behavior no longer dictates your state of mind. The light of your inner stage turns back toward you. True freedom is not about forcing someone out of your mind, but about returning the center of your inner world to yourself. Learning to see thoughts as shadows. Every thought that arises in your mind is not reality itself. Sometimes a sentence or a memory passes through like a fleeting shadow across the sky. If you cling to it, you make it darker, heavier, and turn it into storms. Phrases like, "They don't care about me," "They ignore me," are often nothing more than passing thoughts. But by repeating them, they begin to appear as reality, and they overshadow your entire day. One of the key steps in mental freedom is to see thoughts for what they are, and let them come and go without attaching to them. Picture your mind as a vast sky. Thoughts are clouds. They come, linger for a while, and disappear. As long as you don't chase or grasp them, the sky clears again. Mental freedom is not gained by stopping the clouds, but by allowing them to pass. To take every thought seriously is like telling each cloud, "You must stay." But what you need to do is simply watch them as if you were lying back, observing the sky. Applying this in daily life is simpler than you think. When a thought arises, there is no need to analyze it right away or believe it with emotional intensity. Quietly saying, "This is only a thought," creates a small but powerful distance between you and your mind. That distance keeps it from pulling you in. Then, focusing on your breath for a minute empties the space that thought was holding. Counting each inhale and exhale brings your attention back to now. The thought, like a performer who has lost its audience, leaves the stage. As you continue this practice, you will notice your mind reshaping itself. At first, thoughts may still seem strong, but with patience and wisdom, you learn to meet them with freedom instead of chains. It may try to pull you in, yet each time you simply observe it, each time you allow it to pass, its power over you weakens. As days go by, you realize that the voices which once consumed your entire day now dissolve in just a few seconds. This happens because you no longer react to them. You don't try to control them. You simply witness them. This approach is one of the core foundations of wisdom traditions. A wise perspective teaches that we cannot control the outside world or the first impulses that arise in our minds. But we can always decide how to respond to them. Seeing thoughts as fleeting shadows is one of the most powerful practices of this understanding. You don't chase a shadow. You don't argue with it. You simply let it pass. The mind works in the same way. When you observe it, it loses its grip over you. Over time, as you embody this practice, the thoughts appearing in your mind no longer shake you. You let them come and go without disturbing your peace. The sky is always the sky. Clouds come and go. But you are the sky itself, not the passing shadows. Once this awareness takes root, inner freedom becomes permanent. 4. Filling the inner void with gratitude. Behind the tendency to obsess over someone or something, there is often an unseen emptiness. When the mind notices this void, it tries to fill it with attention, approval, or memories of a person. The more space they take up in your thoughts, the greater that sense of inner lack becomes. This emptiness is like an echo waiting to be filled by something external. Yet true fullness lies in the richness already within you, often overlooked. At this point, one of the most effective ways to break free from mental fixation is to shift focus from what is missing to what is present. That is, gratitude. Practicing gratitude changes the direction of the mind. When your attention is fixed on what you don't have, every absence grows heavier. When someone doesn't call or fails to act as you hoped, focusing on this lack drags you into a swamp of thoughts. But when you turn your gaze toward what you already have, the sunlight after a cloudy morning, the gift of breath, the presence of a true friend, or a simple moment of calm, the void begins to shrink. A mind that sees abundance cannot cling to obsession with the same intensity. To begin this shift, all it takes is a small but steady habit. Each day, take a notebook and write down 3 things you are grateful for. They don't have to be big events. Watching the sun after the rain, sharing a genuine smile, or solving a small problem through your own effort can all make the list. The key is to redirect the mind from lack to presence. Over time, this habit retrains your brain. The pathways that magnify absence weaken, while those that notice abundance grow stronger. Gratitude deepens not only by writing but also by expressing it. Offering a simple thank you to someone, or even whispering thank you silently within yourself, strengthens your inner focus. Gratitude is like filling a glass with water. The emptier it was, the less room remains for old obsessions. This approach also aligns with wisdom teachings. Wise thought suggests that happiness is not found in external approval or possessions, but in recognizing and valuing what you already have. Seeing your blessings each day frees you from the weight of both obsession and expectation. When you focus not on what's missing but on what is present, the chains of attachment weaken. The emptiness that once made you feel dependent on another slowly transforms into a quiet sense of wholeness. As you continue this practice, you realize that someone's silence no longer triggers inner void, because you have filled that space not with another person, but with your own consciousness. Gratitude is not about erasing someone or the past. It is about turning your attention to your inner strength. And when this shift happens, the roots of obsession begin to loosen. Within you, a quiet yet unshakable peace emerges, because what once felt missing outside has already been completed within. But the moment you turn this desire into an obligation, an endless cycle begins in your mind. Questions like, why did they act that way? What did I say wrong? How can I change them? Work like a parasite gnawing at your thoughts. Yet the truth is clear. You cannot control what another person thinks, feels, or does. Trying to do so is like trying to stop the wind with your hands. It only exhausts you. A large part of obsessive thoughts comes from this illusion of control. When the other person does not meet your expectations, your mind creates imaginary scenarios to win them back, to fix the situation, or to shape their behavior. But the result is always the same. No matter how much you try, reality remains outside of you. Facing this truth may seem painful at first, but in fact, it carries great freedom. Because instead of wasting your energy, you gain the chance to direct it to the only place you truly can influence, yourself. At this point, a strong inner reminder is needed to refocus your mind. Quietly repeat to yourself, I cannot control others' actions, only my own attitude. This sentence opens a door when your mind tries to trap you in a cycle. Your attention returns to yourself. Instead of drowning in someone else's inner world, you settle back into your own. Writing this down makes it even more powerful. Write on paper what is truly under your control, your reactions, your choices, your way of thinking, and what you choose to nurture. This list redraws your mental boundaries. Everything beyond it loses weight over you. Sometimes the fastest way to break this loop is through the body. When a thought about someone disturbs you, stand up and walk for 5 minutes. Focus on your steps, your breath, the details around you. Movement unlocks the mind, bringing you back to the present. Even a small action can loosen the chain of control illusion. For lasting change, repetition is essential. With each encounter, each disappointment, each unexpected reaction, remind yourself of this truth. Over time, your mind learns not to try to control others, but to return to your own sphere. The behaviors of others stop being storms shaking you. You become like a rock standing firm in the middle of the waves. Wisdom points exactly here. According to ancient wisdom, the key to peace is clearly distinguishing between what we can and cannot control. Trying to direct others' decisions, feelings, or attitudes only creates frustration. But managing your own thoughts, perspective, and actions, that is where true strength begins. Once this awareness takes root, the behavior of others no longer creates storms in your mind. Accepting what you cannot control is not surrender, but liberation. Because in that moment, you stop wasting energy and become the captain of your own life. 6. Separating love from dependency. At the root of many obsessive thoughts lies a shift. What we believe is love silently becomes dependency. Thinking about someone constantly, feeling uneasy when apart, or letting your mood depend on their behavior is often mistaken for love. But true love is free. It does not control, impose, or enslave the mind. Dependency, on the other hand, is fear disguised as love. Fear of losing, fear of being unworthy, fear of being alone. Such fear-based bonds keep the mind in constant tension. Every message, every silence, every little sign becomes exaggerated in meaning. The mind is no longer guided by love but by fear. Recognizing this difference is a turning point in freedom. Ask yourself honestly, do I think of this person out of love or out of fear of losing them? Asking this question is like drawing a line through the fog. True love, even in thought, brings lightness. It is about wishing them well without expectation. Dependency clutches tightly, believing it will vanish if it lets go. Seeing this distinction reveals the root of obsession. A simple but powerful practice strengthens this awareness. Write down the sentence, "I love, but I do not want to control." This statement cuts through to the core of the mental bond. It redefines love and strips away the layers of fear. Each time you write it, you separate love from dependency a little more. You realize you do not need to keep someone trapped in your mind, because real love already includes their freedom. At night, spend a few minutes with this awareness. Reflect on thoughts about that person. I want them to be happy comes from clarity. What if they leave me? Is the voice of the chain. This self-inquiry gradually brings deeper awareness. Instead of blindly following every scene your mind produces, you look at the root. Wisdom teaches, true love is completely independent of the urge to control. Trying to rule another's will is neither natural nor possible. Love exists together with freedom. When the mind chooses love instead of dependency, obsession loses its fuel. To love is not to chain someone in your mind, but to let them go if needed. When love is free from fear, the mind becomes calm, thoughts grow lighter. That person no longer storms within your mind but becomes a gentle breeze. As this awareness deepens, you stop feeling guilt or emptiness when you don't think of them. Instead, a quiet balance settles within. Because the value of love lies not in mentally holding on to someone, but in freely accepting their presence. That is the exact moment when obsession begins to dissolve. What was said, what was left unsaid, what might happen in the future, or how things could have been different in the past. Countless scenes start playing in the mind. This cycle feels like a whirlpool pulling you in. The worst part is the sense of being imprisoned by your own thoughts. Yet the truth is this, you don't have to respond to every thought. You don't have to analyze, believe, or follow everything that passes through your mind. You can simply observe them and create distance. Imagine your mind as the sky and your thoughts as clouds passing through it. Some clouds are light and white, others dark and stormy. But they all share one thing: none of them are permanent. As long as you don't cling to them, they drift away. But if you hold on to one, you are carried along with it. Obsessive thoughts are the same. By reacting instead of observing, you hand your power over to them. To shift this habit, quietly remind yourself whenever a thought arises, "This is just a thought, not reality." This sentence draws an invisible line between you and the thought. It no longer defines you, you become the observer. Then visualize the thought as a cloud. Don't try to push it away or hold on to it. Simply notice it and allow it to pass. This simple visualization strengthens mental distance. Sometimes thoughts come so strongly that merely observing them feels hard. In those moments, directing your attention to the breath is the simplest yet most powerful method. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, then exhale slowly while counting to 5. Repeat this rhythm a few times. As you focus on your breath, your mind's energy shifts from past or future into the present. The thought is no longer center stage. You are back in your own center. Practicing this several times a day gradually makes a big difference. At first, the thoughts will still come, but they won't pull you in as easily. As you learn to observe them, you develop a lighter attitude toward what happens in your mind. When a thought arises, you no longer panic or argue with it. You simply recognize it as a temporary visitor. According to wisdom teachings, we don't have full control over the thoughts that arise, but we do have complete power over how we respond to them. That choice is the realm of true freedom. Observing without reacting loosens the mental chains. What once felt like inner storms now become ordinary clouds passing across the sky. And as you realize you are the sky itself, no single thought can shake you easily. 8. Breaking the mental loop through movement. When the mind fixates on a person or situation and keeps circling the same thoughts, it can feel like being lost in a maze. The same words repeat, the same scenes replay, the same questions return. No matter how much you struggle, the loop seems unbreakable. At such times, the solution doesn't always come from the mind. Sometimes the most effective way is to bring the body into play. Physical movement can shatter the chain of obsessive thoughts with surprising speed, because it pulls you out of your head and into tangible reality. When you notice yourself trapped in a loop, the simplest action is to get up and move. It might be a short walk, a few minutes of stretching, or pacing around the room. The key is shifting your focus from mental storms to bodily sensations. As you notice your feet on the ground, your breathing, the air touching your skin, the words and images swirling in your head begin to fade. The human mind cannot stay deeply trapped in thought while being fully anchored in bodily awareness at the same time. Music can enhance this process further. Putting on a rhythmic song and moving, whether walking, swaying, or dancing, can silence the inner noise surprisingly fast. The point isn't to dance well or do special exercise, but to shift mental focus into bodily experience. After a few minutes of rhythm, the thoughts that felt overwhelming moments before lose their intensity. This method is even more powerful when practiced regularly, not just in moments of crisis. Taking short walks or stretching with deep breaths during the day prevents the mind from forming obsessive loops in the first place. The body is always a doorway back to balance. All you need is to step through it. Wisdom also guides here. The only thing truly within your control is your own action. You cannot manage another's behavior or every thought that arises in your mind. But you can always choose to move your body. This choice lifts you out of mental darkness with concrete action. Escaping thought loops is not just about thinking differently, but about engaging the body. With regular practice, you'll notice that what once consumed hours now dissolves within minutes of movement. Sometimes the exit from the maze isn't found in words, but in the steps you take. 9. Using the breath as a mental anchor. When the mind clings to someone or a story, replaying the same thoughts, what is needed is not more analysis but an anchor to return to the present. That anchor isn't outside. It is always with you, your breath. Conscious breathing is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to silence mental noise. Because breath pulls you out of the past and imagined futures, grounding you fully in the here and now. When an obsessive thought arises, start by catching yourself and pausing. Then slowly inhale through your nose. Feel the air filling your lungs. Exhale gently through your mouth. Repeat this cycle 3 or 4 times. You will notice how such a simple act can shift the intensity of your mind. Because the mind cannot fully focus on both the breath and the imagined scenes at the same time. When your attention rests on the breath, the thought moves into the background. Without suppressing or fighting it, you simply change your focus and its grip loosens. Turning conscious breathing into a habit not only works in moments of crisis but also strengthens your mental balance in daily life. Practicing short breathing exercises in the morning, during a break, or before sleep trains your mind to stay in the present. So when intense emotions or obsessive thoughts arise, your mind already knows this anchor and quickly brings you back to now. The key here is not to perform the breath as a mechanical task but to experience it fully. Notice your chest and abdomen rising and falling. Feel the coolness and warmth of the air. As you anchor yourself in these sensations, your mind releases the grip of thoughts and settles into the body. In that moment, you are no longer tangled in the past or the future, you simply exist. From the perspective of wisdom, this exercise is one of the most direct ways to guide the mind. Wisdom reminds us that we cannot control the outer world, but we can always guide our inner world. The breath is like a bridge that calms this inner space. Without changing anything outside, just a few conscious breaths can quiet an inner storm. This is what it means to reclaim your true power. 10. Living from love instead of fear. Most recurring thoughts in our mind are not fueled by the present, but by fears about the future. What if they reject me? What if they don't care? What if it doesn't turn out the way I imagine? These questions multiply and quietly occupy the center of your mind. Fear magnifies thoughts, keeps you on guard, and traps you in unreal scenarios. Yet there is a way to free the mind, choosing to live from love rather than fear. Love here is not merely romantic. It is an inner openness, a grounded trust in yourself and life. When you act from fear, every step is built on defense. Your words are shaped to avoid criticism. Your actions are adjusted to avoid rejection. Your mind is constantly predicting others' reactions, pulling you away from your center. When you move from love, your thoughts are rooted in your own values, not others' choices. You step out of fear's narrow corridor into a spacious mental field. To begin this shift, pause and ask yourself, am I building this thought from fear or from love? If the answer is fear, breathe and reset your intention. I will face this with openness and sincerity. To strengthen this practice, choose a guiding value, a compass for your actions. Honesty, authenticity, or respect. When your mind drifts into worrying about how others see you, return to this compass. Am I acting in alignment with my value right now? This brings your attention back from external fears to your inner anchor. Wisdom teaches us that true peace is not found outside, but within the order we cultivate inside. You cannot control others' perceptions, but you can always choose your intention. A loving intention unbinds your mind from fear's chains. Thoughts become lighter, emotions more balanced. 11. Gracefully letting go by accepting impermanence. One of the strongest reasons we remain attached to a person or a moment is our hidden resistance to impermanence. We behave as if someone will always stay, as if moments will last forever, as if nothing will change. Yet everything has a beginning and an end. People come and go. Relationships transform. Moments arise and pass. When we deny this truth, the mind tries to hold on to what has already ended. This clinging is the silent fuel of obsession. Accepting impermanence, however, opens the door to release. To see an ending is not loss but a natural part of transformation. This awareness is one of the most graceful ways to find inner freedom. Yet, sincerely accepting impermanence is one of the most powerful ways to gently release the chain of attachment. The reason you keep replaying a person or a memory in your mind is not because it has lost its place in you, but because you cannot accept that this place has changed. Seeing this distinction is crucial. When you embrace the transient nature of life, you allow the past to let go of your hands. This is not a loss but maturity. Knowing that something is temporary does not diminish its value. On the contrary, it makes the moment even more meaningful. To strengthen this awareness, ask yourself, if this person, this moment, or this period were only a chapter of my life, how would I see it? This question softens the mental grip. You begin to see everything you live through as a brief pause in the river of life. The departure of people, the fading of a memory, or the closing of a period is no longer a dramatic loss but a natural flow. This perspective shatters obsession at its root because the mind no longer has an excuse to hold on. Accepting impermanence does not mean erasing or devaluing experiences. On the contrary, it means honoring them with gratitude. When a memory arises, being able to say, "That was beautiful, and now it has passed," is the most graceful form of letting go. It both acknowledges what was and brings you back to the present moment. This approach can be reinforced with simple daily practices. When a conversation ends, when the sun sets, or when a day comes to a close, gently repeat to yourself, "This moment will never return." This awareness softens the mind's reflex to cling. Over time, as this way of thinking settles, the end of a relationship or a phase no longer triggers storms in your mind. Because you begin to see impermanence not as a threat but as a natural aspect of life. The wisdom tradition is clear on this point. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily of the fragility of the world, the mortality of people, and the impermanence of events. Epictetus advised remembering the mortality of what you love, not to diminish affection but to deepen appreciation. Understanding impermanence is one of the cornerstones of inner serenity through wisdom. The mental tension caused by clinging dissolves only when you truly accept the transient nature of life. When this outlook takes root, memories that once occupied you for days now leave only a brief echo in your mind. You learn to live without suppressing the past, yet without being chained to it. This graceful letting go lightens the mind. A quiet peace rises within your heart. You are no longer someone resisting change, but a mind flowing in harmony with life's rhythm, nourishing inner silence to calm mental noise. When your mind fixates on a person, a memory, or a story, an endless murmur emerges inside. A voice that constantly talks, questions, and produces scenes. This noise becomes so normalized that you hardly notice it. But the real issue is not the number of thoughts, but the lack of silence. For the mind is renewed in silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is a fertile space where thoughts dissolve and obsessions lose their power. Learning to consciously nurture this inner space drastically reduces the weight of obsessions. At first, being alone with silence may feel uncomfortable, because behind the noise lie suppressed thoughts and emotions that surface. When you turn off the phone, silence the music, or stop talking, your mind may seem even louder. This is natural. The mind is beginning to recognize the space it used to fill with noise. If instead of fleeing you gently stay with the silence, this inner field gradually opens. Thoughts come and go like passing waves. To integrate this practice into daily life, begin with small steps. Try sitting for 5 minutes each day doing nothing. No music, no conversation, no screen. Close your eyes or gaze softly at a point, and simply observe what unfolds within your mind. Thoughts will appear, But don't suppress or follow them. Just let them pass. This exercise opens the doorway to inner silence. At first, 5 minutes may feel challenging, but with time you can extend it to 10 to 15 minutes. Spending time in nature deepens this practice. Sitting in a park, listening to the wind, or noticing the rustling of leaves gently quiets the mental noise. The silence of nature resonates within your own inner world. Combined with solitude, this effect grows even stronger. Time given to silence is in fact a return inward. Mental fixations dissolve in this vast and calm space, for there is no longer an endless murmur feeding them. Wisdom traditions have long emphasized this. Marcus Aurelius advised finding a quiet refuge within, even amidst crowds. For wise thinkers, peace is not found in the silence of the outer world, but in the order within the mind's own chaos. Accessing this inner sanctuary, even in the midst of noise, is a sign of inner strength. This silence is not an escape, but an awareness that allows you to witness your mind without being ruled by it. With regular practice, you will notice that the thoughts once occupying you all day lose their grip. A calmness arises within, as if the sky has cleared after heavy rain. In this silence, thoughts still come, but they no longer remain.